Hey, so it's Sue and Rob.
Hello,
So-
I'm the Rob.
I'm the Sue, which is Nurse Chill as well, but I'd prefer you called me Sue. So where are we?
We're at my office. We're actually at the Spinnaker Sound Marina down in beautiful Sandstone Point, just near Bribie Island, halfway sort of between Brisbane and Sunny Coast. So, yeah.
Do you want to see the background here?
Oh, you gotta do it,
We're
yeah.
on the marina.
Do the pan.
Check it out. So this is like basically like a caravan park for boats.
It kind of is.
I guess that's
Some
what
very
most
nice
marinas
boats
are.
in there though, but
Yeah, fancy
Yeah.
caravans.
I don't know how
float.
seaworthy most of them are.
Yeah.
They float. You don't ever see them going anywhere, but
It's beautiful. So this is where he works when he's not travelling the country or the world teaching. So what do you want to talk about today?
whatever you want to talk about. We've had some really interesting conversation around blood pressure and some of the
have.
previous videos, so
Yes, the old video that we did on lying and standing, that was of interest to a lot of people, and I think it did help a lot of people clear up any confusion. So that did make me think we should probably do a video just on the difference between the diastolic and the systolic, and what's your map? Like, everyone writes it down, but what does it mean? And I know a lot of you probably know this, but to have it explained again is probably going to be beneficial. So do you want to do that?
definitely we can do MAP. To understand MAP, we need to understand systolic and diastolic and recognise that the MAP is somewhere in between. So let's say I had a systolic blood pressure of 120 over a diastolic of 80. The difference between those two, the top number and the bottom number, is called the pulse pressure. So that's your pulse pressure. And your pulse pressure is going to widen if the systolic goes up or if the diastolic falls away. You know, you get that sort of widening, and this is why on our colour-coded observation sheets, and I won't specifically say QADs because that's only a Queensland term, but those colour-coded observation sheets that we all use, there's 12 or 13 of them in use around the country. When we write down blood pressure, we actually do those little chevrons with dotted lines and a chevron, so you can physically see the pulse pressure. So that's your pulse pressure. So if I had 120 on 80, my pulse pressure would be 120 minus 80. That's a pulse pressure of 40.
Yeah.
The difference between those two numbers.
Pressure on the vessels.
So that's the pressure differential between the diastolic, which is the very base pressure at the relaxation phase of the heart, and then when the heart pumps and a big wave of blood goes through, the top pressure is your systolic. So systole means to contract, so during systole, that's your top number, the systolic blood pressure. So how much of a swing does it go from the relaxed internal environment of a blood vessel to the very, very top pressure in the blood vessel? That's called the pulse pressure. So that'll be up to 120, but when it comes back to rest, it rests at 80 for those numbers that we've played with. Now, if I took 1/3 of that pulse pressure, so remember we're at 40, a pulse pressure of 40, if I took 1/3 of that pulse pressure and I simply add that to the diastolic, so 1/3 of 40 is 13 plus change, so 13, and I add that to diastolic, 80, 13 plus 80 gives me 93. That's my MAP, my mean arterial pressure. And that's important in a critical care context. That's the blood pressure I want to be worrying about if I'm concerned that I'm not perfusing someone's kidneys well, or they're not perfusing their heart or their brain. So heart, lung, brain and kidneys, the vital organs, they rely on the mean arterial pressure.
So in ICU, they'll often write, when you're titrating inotropes, keep the MAP above
60, so 60, 65, depending on the underlying condition of the patient. If I really want to look after your kidneys, you want to keep that MAP above 65. If you want to, you don't want that MAP bottoming out below 60. In fact, some ICUs might run certain patients down as low as about 55. But 60 is kind of like your bare bones. So it would be reasonable to say, well, what's normal? Well, normal sits around about that 80 to 120 is a normal MAP. So it's all about perfusing your brain, your heart, your lungs, your kidneys. Drop that MAP down below 60 and you're probably going to see a marked reduction in urine production. So,
yes,
you
and
know,
that's
'cause
what I learned.
that's a window to your perfusion, isn't it?
Yeah, that's what was of interest to me when I did my critical care training, was that it is about perfusing those vital organs.
Yep.
So that's, if you can just understand that your blood pressure is important, especially in a critical setting, for those basic reasons, aren't they? To keep that person alive and perfused.
Definitely. And that opens up a whole conversation that we could have around shock and recognising what are the symptoms. How would I know my patient was in shock?
Yeah,
You know, it might be a reasonable conversation to have. Maybe we'll do a video on that.
that's great. Very
Map.
helpful.
Keep
Did
that map
help?
above 60,
Yeah.
magic map.
Keep your map above 60, diastolic.
Diastolic is your baseline pressure, so
Yeah.
you don't want to go really below 60,
No.
below about 50 with your diastolic. You know, your absolute lowest number that you'd want to write down on somebody's obs would be probably about 80 on 40.
Yeah.
80
yeah,
on
it's a met call
40.
for sure.
Oh yeah, definitely concerned, but you know, you would be really worried about cerebral perfusion and kidney perfusion and cardiac perfusion if your blood pressure was much below that sort of 80 on 40. And you probably are seeing a map that's sitting at about 60 at that point.
Excellent. Thanks, Rob. I hope that helped. Put it in the comments if you've got any other questions and we'll try and answer them for you.
Magic map.
Thanks, Rob, from ECT for Health.
Sue from Nurse Chill.
See
Chill
ya.
out.
Chill out.